Hello, everyone, and welcome to, well, it's not really an off the cuff video. It's really a response I wanted to do to the recent Borderless documentary that Lauren Southern released last week. I really enjoyed it quite a lot. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on it, just how it really just played out, how I thought it went. It's been a long time in the works. I enjoyed her last documentary, Farmlands, and just to jump into it. So throughout the documentary, I thought it was done really well, in my opinion. There were some parts where I thought, that could have been done better. There were things I think that got left out in the end. I'm not quite sure. I'll discuss that in a bit. But overall, I thought it was really well done. The amount of work that Lauren Southern did was phenomenal, really, and yeah, just overall, I think that she did a pretty brilliant job. One of my favorite things, looking back, just as far as a somewhat right wing person doing a documentary goes, she took a very understanding approach to the immigrants. For example, we had this lovely shot here where Lauren Southern actually was meeting up, quite early on in the documentary. She spends a few nights trying to find some migrants crossing the border, looking for the boats, and they managed to find these migrants who've kind of looked for the boats. I think they ended up missing them, but they just come across them here, and they're kind of having a chat with the guy who's ended up leading it. But the migrants don't really know what's going on. So just to show you here.
How much you pay?
$1,000.
Or 1,000. They pay $1,000 for each person.
Each person.
And then they'll take you to Lesbos?
Yeah,
Lesbos.
Yeah.
And why do you want to go to Lesbos?
because in Afghanistan every time war, we cannot go to school. Don't have economy, don't have family.
You
Don't have anyone in Afghanistan.
Why not stay in Turkey?
Because we don't have anything of Kimli.
No ID, nothing here.
Not my family in Turkish. I don't have anyone in Turkish.
Oh, is your family in Europe?
Yeah.
What have you heard about Sweden?
It's best country.
Best country.
I like. I want to go.
Now, I think that what that guy says, it's very nice. I'm glad he's got the ambitions. But like Lauren Southern has noted quite a few times, he's not really a refugee. I mean, by the sounds of it, he's coming from Afghanistan. So he says, there's war there all the time. So, that's understandable. It's kind of horrible to be in war. And maybe they've actually got a better reason for it. But it doesn't sound like he's moving to escape the war so much as going there because his family are there and to go for the economy, or the economic benefits, really. So, I can appreciate that. And, like, I just thought, it's kind of a mess that is created there. He's, he's saying, it sounds like a lovely country. And like Lawrence Southern asks her, why doesn't he stay in Turkey if it's safe in Turkey? I mean, I don't know if it's safe. I would say it's not safe in Turkey, but I also would say that, maybe not bringing in all these people, which is not a good plan either. And you can see why bringing all these people over is not a good plan, because they all get stuck somewhere often, as they saw when they went to Moria, the Moria camps, and they were talking to this guy who was an atheist, and he actually had been attacked in the camps. So you see here translating.
حياتي معرضة للخطر من دخلت من شهر الواحد لليوم انه انا حياتي ما فد يوم انه نمت نومه مرتاح.
He is atheist. He doesn't believe in any religion. His life under danger.
Because you're atheist? Is
As he says.
Is majority of the camp religious?
Yeah, majority is the Islamic, but he's scared from the ISIS.
He's scared from the radical
fanatic people.
Islamic.
ISIS.
قلها اخذ شوف الخيمة تفتر عليها من الداخل ومن الخارج كلها مشققة يعني من كثر ما دخلوا هنا
Many people attacked him and using a knife against him.
Because he's atheist?
يقول لك شنو يسوي؟
لأن انه انا ملحد.
Yeah, because he is atheist, as he says.
And if you are, do other atheists or Christians get attacked in the
مو بس
camp?
مو بس الاثيست حتى المسيح.
also Christian also Christian وبعد Jew
الاقليات لا اليهود
minority
الازيديه الاكراد
ازيديه اكراد ايش بيهم
الاكراد هم يعني اكو تقريبا 4 اكراد انقتلوا هنا موجود اكو فيديو
يقول 4 people from the Kurdish have been killed.
The Kurdish people.
Kurdish, as he said.
So I was really glad here that Lawrence Southern took the time to talk to people, not just who were approaching the boats, but people who'd actually made it across and were now stuck trying to get in still. You know, they're not actually, they're in these overcrowded camps, they're getting attacked, there's cultures clashing, it's not working out too well. And I really appreciated, you know, the fact that they actually took the time to talk to some of these people, because, you know, there's all sorts of different views. You've got the Islamic and even atheists in that camp, and there's Christians and Kurdish people who are all getting attacked. And I really like the fact that Lawrence Southern took the time. I've clipped out other parts that are in there, but he also talks about how they went to the police, you know, that made no effort to protect them. And there's all sorts of other people who are saying, you know, it's a horrible place here, it's really bad, the healthcare is awful, you know, they're not being looked after properly. And I like the fact that Lawrence Southern actually took the chance to talk to them as well. She even took the chance to took the time to go down to Spain, and I thought it was interesting because there was 2 different views in this sort of makeshift camp. It's not even a camp really. That they were basically a group of people waiting to go across the border, well, storm the border and force their way across, not to make their way semi-legitimately. So as you see here, they're talking to this guy from Gambia.
Yeah, I was here since 2017. Yeah, I decided to leave Gambia to go to foreign, you know, so that I can be having more professional to be professional in football. Amen. Yeah, that's why I leave Gambia.
So I admire that guy. You know, he's I kind of feel bad for him, just like the guy who was wanting to go to Sweden. You know, I feel a bit bad for him because, you know, you know, when someone's got an ambition like that, that's a crazy ambition, and I admire that. I wish they had some legitimate way they could come across. I don't know what opportunities that guy's got, or whether he actually has the chance to come across legitimately. I know that the way he's trying to go is not a great way. You know, he's trying to storm a fence, really. That's not smart, but I got to give him props. You know, I admire that ambition, but that's not a reason to come to a country illegally. You know, you want to be a footballer, I admire that, that's great, but coming to a country illegally, not only are you not going to get that opportunity, most likely, you're not going to, you know, it's not good for the country, it's not good for anyone. But, yeah, I do still admire that personality. But at the same camp, the guy leading that group has a completely different view that I completely oppose. And it's very similar to one we're hearing in these countries, in our own countries.
I'm doing this because I know the system here better than anyone, and I want to help these people cross. It's their right. Their lives here are no good. We are all created equal people. Borders should not be in place like this. There are 2 ways you can come. One is by boat, and the other is on the fence. Here, we jump the fence. Once every month, we all pick a date. Then we all get together, and any weapons we can, and storm the fence. This takes a long time to plan, and not all of us make it. In fact, most don't make it. I hear a lot of people say once they make it, they regret the trip, and Europe doesn't turn out how they want it to. Our next jump is coming up soon.
I think Lawrence Southern did a brilliant job talking to that guy, because not only are we hearing a very social justice type of viewpoint, you know, no borders, they should have a right to go in, all that. But we're also hearing another view there where they're actually, he says they hear from people who've made it across and they say it's not great. It's just like, and so why are you trying to get across then? Why are you trying to get across? And I really, you know, I think Lawrence Southern did a good job though. You know, she's talked to all these people from Africa to Spain, to Greece, all these different areas, and like they went to show the different types of people that are coming across. And I think Lawrence Southern even took it to the next level by actually talking to two sides of the coin of people who make it across. The first was this French guy who's actually hit it really rough, having made it to France itself.
Okay.
Là, ça fait 6 mois comme ça que je suis arrivé à l'Italie. Je suis en France ici. Je n'ai pas de travail, je n'ai rien, et voilà. Malgré on parle de français, mais on est arrivé à la France, jusqu'à présent, on n'a pas trouvé refusé, on n'a pas trouvé autre. Au Mali, tu vois, non, le Mali me manque. Surtout le parcours que j'ai fait, je viens sur la mer, tu vois, non. Donc je sais que je prends ma vie à risque de venir à la mer, tu vois, non. Et à ce temps que j'étais au Mali, je n'ai jamais pensé Europe comme ça, surtout la France, tu vois, non. Donc j'ai pensé que c'était un grado, quand on vient, on va trouver des maisons, on va trouver du boulot pour travailler, pour envoyer quelque chose à la famille qui n'ont rien, qui ne mangent pas à leur faim. Je pensais que c'était dur, mais je ne pensais pas que c'était plus dur que ça. C'est une erreur, c'est une erreur. C'est une grande erreur, c'est une grande erreur. Tous les Africains qui viennent, surtout avec la mer là comme ça, tu prends tes vies à risque, tu vois ce que je dis là-dedans, d'aider encore, et voilà. Tu viens en Europe aussi, tu peux faire 7 ans, tu ne fais pas le boulot, tu n'as pas le travail, tu n'as pas le papier, tu vois. Et voilà quoi, c'est une grande erreur.
I agree, it's a mistake. And it's a brilliant thing that Lawrence Southern has taken the time to go to the other side and actually show this guy, I think this is the part where I think they left out a part. They were saying that there was another camp nearby with some Islamic guys who kept throwing stones. I'm not sure about that. I've tried to find the footage, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, I mean, Lawrence Southern recently did a speech at the EU Parliament, which really covered this whole thing where, they come across and they're like, it's a mistake. But I mean, I would say it's not a mistake for everyone, which Lawrence Southern doesn't try to hide. She does show that there are some people who kind of do make it all right. And there's some people who, even though they've made it across, I've got to respect them. They have a very understanding view of the countries they've come to. Lawrence Southern made her way to Ireland and spoke to 3 of the immigrants who'd basically been placed in this hotel. I think it was the only hotel in that town. And a lot of the locals were not happy because with that hotel now being a immigration center of sorts, a place for them to stay, they were basically, their tourism plummeted. That's my understanding. It's very rough in the documentary. But one of the guys who's actually in this group of immigrants, and they've all got horrible stories and good reasons to be there, but there's one guy who's standing there, he's talking about the locals and how they've reacted. I really admired this, and I'm glad that Lawrence Southern chose to include it.
Not having like more foreigners in your country or asylum seekers like us, I think, and them will be thinking maybe we'll be getting their jobs in the future, or with the housing thing going on now, the crisis, so it's going to be kind of difficult for them to accept foreigners coming over to their place. There are some difficulties, there are some welcoming hands as well, so because I don't blame them, that's exactly whatever we can do. Even me in my country, if I see someone who is a foreigner, it's not going to be easy for me to accept them. So I don't really blame people who don't accept us, but I respect them for that.
And I've gained so much respect for Lawrence Southern and for immigrants like that who understand that the world doesn't revolve around them. They're coming into someone else's country and they just appreciate what they've been given, and that is a really admirable trait. And then Lawrence Southern took it to another level because this is one of the craziest things for me to see in this documentary is that Lawrence Southern and a team they actually showed the conditions that things have got, not just for the immigrants but for the people who live in these countries that are being bypassed or you might say taken over, from the borders all the way into the UK and so on. So, for example, they came across this very early on in their journey, before they even found the migrants. They came across this olive farmer, and he was just talking about how they're right on the border where migrants are passing by all the time, just how life has changed for them, which, you'll see here.
It all started in 2013. Started slowly, with a few migrants passing here and there, but now, thousands pass every day. This village is on the coast, where they launch the boats at the dead of the night, so it's where they wait. Then the crime started, and it got worse and worse. The traffickers started killing people they had arguments with, including the migrants. No one in the village could go to their own fields to pick olives. The traffickers had taken over the land, and it got worse. They turned up at my farm, pulled a gun on me, and told me they wanted the deed. They were acting like the mafia. These people are dangerous. If you are filming here, you need to be careful. The traffickers disguise themselves as migrants. We are all frightened here now. I'm 55 years old, and now I have to carry a gun just to tend my field and animals. There are 20 more villages just like ours along this stretch of the coast. I would say 1 million people have passed through just on this coastline.
And yeah, so that's not only is that an alarming story, but this is the kind of thing that I think Borderless brought to light and just made so vivid for me, is not just the situation the migrants are in, but the situation the locals are in. And that guy's life has been ruined, and his family's life has been ruined, really, because of the actions of people thousands of miles away who decide they want to be nice, they want to be compassionate and caring. It doesn't affect them, does it? It doesn't affect them at all. And I'm going to talk over this next clip, but I was really impressed and shocked by the levels to which things had gotten in some of the Slavic countries. So they had actually set up this militia here, and they're pretty well equipped. They don't even have real guns, if I recall correctly. They've got airsoft weapons, but the effect is good enough. And they've managed to catch 60,000 illegal immigrants trying to sneak over their borders. And honestly, really impressive job done there. And I thought that the fact they've got like an ex-military guy leading them, who they've just had to resort to this. They've got their jobs, they've got all these teachers, they've got all sorts of their own careers that they've got to focus on. But the state in their country has gotten to the point where they have to actually worry about defending themselves. And so I thought, that's really worrying and alarming. And I just think that that's definitely something that I would, I'd say that's a point at which you got to wonder, have you gone too far? And I think Lauren Southern actually taking the chance to show that there's people who are actually doing this now. Even I got to wonder how many. I don't think we've even seen the scope of all the things that the Borderless team did, because they got to have missed some stuff. Not all, when you're doing footage, not all your footage is going to be useful. So this kind of thing is crazy, because if they've got this much good footage to use, really, this much useful information, where they're able to show migrants from all sorts of different countries. I think Spain, just outside of Spain, in Africa, in Greece, they've spoken to this olive farmer as well in Greece, I believe it was. There's I think they're Bulgarian, the Bulgarian militia here. There's these people in Ireland they've spoken to. That's a lot. That's a lot of stories. And they didn't even stop there. So going back to Ireland, just looking at the locals, they had their own mixed reactions. And I thought they were actually quite understanding for a lot of degrees, but really just concerned for the state of their town. It's this tiny town in Ireland. It's the Republic of Ireland, I believe. And so, I'll just let them speak for themselves.
It wasn't a great thing to happen to the town, purely because we have no hotel, but it's not the right place for these people. They should be in lovely housing, apartments where they can do their own cooking, cater for themselves, and just mind themselves. That's all they want to do.
Well, I suppose it's your hometown. You don't really want to. You just want to see people having fun, having crack, and a bit of laugh. But like, we don't have choice, and this is up to the councillors and all that. They're our voice, but it just seemed to go unnoticed. And like, for a hotel to go into town, I don't understand it.
Initially, I mean, everybody got a fright. There's no doubt about it. We got a fright. There was absolutely no notice. And all of a sudden, the hotel's gone, and we have 100 single men moving in.
No doubt about it, that there's a generally held belief in the town that we're not being looked after properly.
We weren't told. And it was absolutely disgraceful, but the county council here don't start me on it. They're a law unto themselves. And I have to be very careful what I say because they could sue me.
It just seems to go, it goes from bad to worse.
And yeah, I can totally relate to how other people feel. It's the same situation here in the UK. You've got councillors, you've got lawmakers that don't even give a single crap about you. And if they're going to virtue signal, they'll do it. They don't care about you much. And to be honest, right after that scene, it was literally, the point was driven home so brilliantly by Lauren Southern and her team, because they actually went and spoke to one of the councillors of that town, a guy named Gail Dunn from the party Fianna Fáil. I don't know how to say that name, but I think that's how you say it. And they asked him, and he was explaining about the homeless shelter. He was explaining all sorts of lovely things they did. And then they brought up this migration centre. And it went as well as you might think when they were speaking to a cowardly politician who's not going to speak, not going to actually be accountable.
Obviously, there's been a provision centre that's opened up in Wicklow, and a few of the people that we've spoken to have kind of expressed concerns over funding.
No, not answering that. No, not answering that. Not answering that.
Okay, is that just because?
No, I'm not answering that. No, I'm not answering it. Can we just stop that for a minute?
Yeah, of course.
So not only did he not even answer the question, cut off the entire interview because he's a bloody coward. Now, I'd say I'm surprised, but I'm not that surprised. That's, politicians are, well, I don't even know what they're doing. They do what they believe is right for whatever deluded reason, and they're not going to answer to anyone for it. And frankly, I think if that town doesn't vote out people like that, then yeah, they are doomed. But going back to the video I showed earlier with the guy who was responding to it, that one of the guys who basically saying that he understands their concern and he respects it. That shows that the enemy isn't the migrants either. It wasn't the migrants who shut down that hotel. And so the solution is, or the problems are not caused by the migrants, and the problems are not caused by the locals. The problems are caused by the lawmakers and the leaders who actually don't even get affected by this. And that's why, when I was watching this, I was just like, this is so well put together, because they're not just saying, look at these stupid immigrants, they're horrible, they ruined this country. They weren't doing any of that. And Lauren Southern was actually showing the situation that everyone is in trouble here. And the real victors, the real people winning through all this, is the bloody NGOs and human traffickers. And we were very lucky because Lauren Southern and her team, they managed to catch out. It was quite a big scandal, controversy type thing, Lauren Southern and her team, they managed to get a secret recording of, I believe, Ariel Winters talking about how they handle the process and how they talk to the immigrants and how they train the immigrants, which you'll see here.
I tell them that this is acting. All of this is acting. It's all acting as though this is theater. So for them to get through, they must act their part in the theater. And that is the refugee and trauma, because these Yazo officers are so fucking stupid that all they know is what is written on a paper. Yazo says this is refugee and trauma. They have these characteristics. So we coach people how to have these characteristics. So like the first role-playing activity we do is like us being them, and they're the officer. And then we flip around after they've had some practice to see how should I walk into the office, how should I introduce myself, how should I give them the folder, and then how do I sit down, and then when do I stand up, when do I show them how to pray.
Why would you need to show them how to pray?
Because it's a good way to show honesty. It's done in other places too, like not good places. to see if you're truly what you say you are. You can't show how you pray.
Like if you're actually Christian. Oh, so if you're saying that you're like fleeing persecution,
Like you should probably know how to be, praying that way. They also ask like, what's your favorite holiday? So like some people just say like Christmas, but like we explain, you can't just say this because this is not a sufficient answer. You have to say, and you have to say it in a certain way, just like December 25th, which is Christmas, which is the birthday of our Lord and Savior. There's a formula we came up with, which is ironic because I suck at formulas, but it's like significant event, date, and location. So the way you answer all those questions is the same way. In December 2017 in Izmir, Turkey, I was threatened for being a Christian because my boss and his friends jumped me when I was leaving my church. This is the Bible they tried to tear up. This is the crucifix I was wearing that they tried to tear. And they made me feel unsafe as a Christian in Turkey. But boom, because you have all the elements in there. Like our narrative timeline format has like a fill in the blank section at this point.
So yeah, this Ariel Winters, I'm so glad that Lauren Southern and her team, they exposed her for a absolutely horrible person, because she's subverting the entire system. They literally come up with their own formula for getting immigrants through the system that is meant to find people who are actually under threat, people whose lives are actually in danger. And they're saying, yeah, just lie about it, just tell them that you're a Christian, do all this. And they literally have a system for it, and it's absolutely horrible. And that's just one side of the coin. Apparently what the NGOs do is much worse. There was a guy who was, I think, eventually arrested, a guy named, I can barely pronounce his name, Panos Moraitis. Moraitis or what. So he, they asked him, because he had apparently been accused of all sorts of human trafficking and making money off the whole thing. And so they actually asked him about it, and they spoke to him and his lawyer, and they got some contradicting answers, which was interesting. So here's his answer.
So a lot of the media is saying that you are a human trafficker. I just wanted a very direct response to...
We have never facilitated human trafficking. We have never assisted any smuggler. We're quite against it. We're here to save lives and nothing more.
So from his mouth, they're there to help people, they're there to be lovely and nice, and they're not going to do anything bad. But his lawyer had a different take on it.
They said that we were actually money laundering unknown sums of money. And the press in Greece said like 500 million. And in reality it was 500,000 euro, which if you engage with NGOs, it's a small amount of money actually, for 3 years. Wow. But we were laundering it.
That was an interesting twist. And Lauren Southern, I think they sent in that information. It really helped in getting that guy sent to jail. And not only that, but as they covered there, in the documentary, they pointed out that they say the NGOs actually take a lot more money. They get a lot more money out of this. Now that's the real worry. But yeah, overall, I thought the documentary was brilliantly done. They showed the people that are on top, that are managing it, handling it, sorting it all out. They've shown the people that are on the ground trying to get in. They're showing the people that are on the ground reacting to it, responding to it. And they got every side of the story, I reckon anyway. And I've left it out, but they even spoke to some of the politicians in the EU Parliament. They spoke to some of the people in Ireland who are responding to all these things, that are investigating all of it and trying to find out where there's corruption and problems. And all of this just gets ignored because, we're being all lovely. And yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. Now, my criticism of the documentary might be that some of the stuff that got left out, I heard about, but I could be wrong about that, so I'm not really going to count that one. But the other two criticisms were some weird design video editing decisions that really kind of frustrated me a bit. The first one, just very brief clips, was the motion graphics that they had. Now in the intro they had some very nice motion graphics. I won't show those just yet, but I really liked them. But they had this, whenever they were showing locations, they had this like Earth zoom in clip, and they had this weird art style, which I'm showing now. You know, this had this weird sort of, it looked like a neural net kind of thing, and I found that very weird, very, very weird. But it was at least consistent. They showed it for a few times, and that zoom there looks a bit weird. Like, I don't know, I have to feel like maybe they rushed the motion graphics. And then halfway through the documentary, they show this other little clip here. Much shorter, much briefer clip. And I like that one a lot. But I would have left that one out because it looks completely different to the others. So I have to wonder if maybe one of those was like a stock clip and the rest were ones that they actually made. It's very inconsistent, very weird. I'm sure they got a good reason for it, but I would have, it kind of looked horrible. They could have just kept it simple. And the other weird little thing were these, in between a documentary, sections and acts and such, documentaries will often have these like talking or narrative scenes. And they have these here with Lauren Southern, where she's actually addressing the audience and she's talking about something that's going on. And that's all well and good, you kind of need it in a documentary, but the set that it's taking place in, I found very weird. It looks like it's come out of an 80s or 90s sort of sci-fi film, the very purple blue colors, very bright. They've got like the computer racks in the background, which look really weird. And it's also really echoey. I found that very frustrating. I didn't really like it. The rooms were very echoey, and I don't know, I just thought it was out of place. I think they could have just gone with some sort of random back room of a shed or something. That might have looked a little more like, part of the very on the ground gritty, like the Borderless documentary kind of is. So yeah, I thought that set was a bit weird. Those are my criticisms really, which were really just, after all of that. And then there was one criticism everyone was throwing around as some sort of proof, is the Libya was spelt wrong in one of their clips. I think it was actually the first one. I'm going to play it again just to see. I don't know if it was. I think we'll find out in a second. I'm fairly sure it was this one. Okay, no, it's not. I've played the wrong one. Okay, well, Libya was spelled like L-I... sorry. I think it was L-I-B-A-Y-A or something like that. So wrong spelling, obviously. They did, and then they spelled it right in another clip. Another section of a few other areas in the documentary. And they even, I think I've actually left that out because it wasn't too big a part for me personally, but they actually even managed to get an interview with one of the traffickers. He ended up running off because he thought that they'd set up a sting operation, so that was quite humorous. But overall, the documentary was brilliantly done. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, wasn't too sure about some of the design decisions, and I've not even mentioned the whole fact that when the documentary went up at first, it was taken down. A really skeptical person could theorize that maybe they took it down themselves and made it out like YouTube had taken it down. I don't think so. I don't think they'd go to stoop to those levels. But yeah, either way, they've got an emergency backup now. They got it on BitChute as well, which is great. But overall, I thought it was a brilliant documentary. So yeah, I'll leave a link to it if you haven't seen it yet. And I'm gonna maybe try and do this with other types of documentaries that are any good. But I'm going to leave you with a clip from Lauren Southern's EU speech, which I thought summarizes the whole situation really well. And yeah, I'll also leave a link to that in the description. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the sort of review thing that I've just done. And
in the name of
we'll see if it happens in the future again. But yeah,
the migrants who would rather
here's a word
beg
from Lauren Southern, as mentioned.
and starve. The European natives who now walk the streets they once knew so well, who are afraid. The parents worried for their children's safety, the elderly who are mugged and beaten in our major cities, the children whose bodies now lay at the bottom of the Mediterranean. These are the victims of a vicious con
and
perpetrated by criminals working with solipsistic
video. It's
aided
really
and abetted by well-meaning fools who care not because it is right, but because it is trendy.
I
because
really enjoyed it
it
quite
is
a lot.
politically
I just wanted to share some of my
favorable.
thoughts on it, just how it
Many here
really
will
just
know too
played
well
out.
the jokes we
thought
can
it
no
went.
longer tell, the words we can no longer use,
It's been a
the
long time in the
characters or
works.
shows
I enjoyed
and
her
songs
last
that have been
documentary,
cast on the
Farmlands.
pyre of political
And
correctness.
yeah,
These losses,
just to jump into it.
although
So
individually small,
throughout
add up to
the
something
documentary,
greater.
I thought it was done really
But
well.
even the loss of these
in my
things
opinion, there were some
pales in
parts where I thought
comparison
that could
to
have
what
been
we
done
are
better.
casting
There were
away
things I think
in our
that got
pursuit
left out in the end.
of
I'm
political
not quite sure. I'll
correctness.
discuss
Namely,
that a
our
bit.
culture,
But
our history,
overall,
our future,
I thought it was
our
really well done.
security, and perhaps
the amount of work
most
that Lawrence Southern did
disturbingly,
was
the
phenomenal,
lives
really.
of
And
countless
yeah,
Europeans,
just overall, I think that
immigrants,
she
and
did a
refugees
pretty brilliant job.
alike. When the
One of my favorite things,
self-aggrandizing glimmer
looking back, just
of
as
our
far as a
compassion fades
somewhat
away,
right-wing person doing a
we
documentary
will realize that
goes,
we paid for it.
she
lives
took a
of
very
innocence,
understanding approach
every
to
race,
the immigrants.
every creed,
and for
every
example,
religion.
we had this lovely shot
this-
here where
this is the story
Lawrence
of
Southern
Borderless
actually
Europe. It is a story
was
where
meeting up,
nobody
quite early on in the documentary. She spends a few nights trying to find some